Today on How It's Made. Steel, the original heavy metal. Apple juice, from the tree to the glass. Aircraft landing gear, what you really need to score a touchdown. And cosmetics, we'll tour a factory where they make it up as they go along. They call Superman the Man of Steel, because flying and X-ray vision aside, he could bend solid steel with his bare hands. Thanks to its legendary strength, steel is used for everything from bridges and skyscrapers to household appliances. Steelmaking usually begins with a pile of scrap metal. Using this 11-ton electromagnet, scrap iron composed of crushed car bodies, electric appliances, cans, and other steel scraps is gathered up. This powerful magnet is able to lift 5.5 tons of metal. About 83% of this scrap will be transformed into bars of steel. This metal is then dumped into a basket which by itself weighs 35 tons. The basket can hold up to 65 tons of metal. And now they're going to melt the metal. This furnace reaches a temperature of 3,000 degrees, hot enough to liquefy the metal. It is heated by 3 electrodes and by 4 natural gas burners. The contents of the basket are dumped into the furnace. Here, the pieces of metal come into contact with liquefied steel, which always remains at the bottom of the furnace. There's a reaction and an aeration system draws out the smoke that's produced. At this high heat, the 66 tons of metal will melt in about 60 minutes. Then the cover is placed on the furnace. This liquid is composed of impurities that rise to the surface when the metal becomes molten. At this stage, a workman draws a sample of steel to determine its chemical makeup. And now they make use of a supersonic oxygen lance. This lance blows oxygen into the molten steel. This reduces its carbon content, homogenizes the mix, and speeds up the melting process. A ladle is positioned beneath the furnace. The molten steel will be transferred from the furnace into this ladle. The molten steel easily pours into the ladle. The ladle weighs 60 tons and holds 127 tons of molten steel. An overhead crane capable of lifting 200 tons carries the ladle filled with steel. Additives are introduced in order to obtain the correct steel tone. Here, the electrodes are taken out of the furnace ladle. A workman now opens the pouring nozzles of the distributor. It is equipped with 4 pouring holes. The molten steel runs into molds. It cools very quickly and begins to harden. Steel billets are produced in lengths varying from 15 to 35 feet. The billets are then cut to the desired length with a natural gas torch. A pouring identification number is marked on them with a wax crayon. The difference between a steel billet and the nearly finished flattened product is clear. Flattening of the billets remains to be done. Before flattening begins, billets are placed in the furnace to be reheated for 2 hours at 2,000 degrees. Water jets cool the billet ejector. The billets are placed on the flattener, where powerful rollers compress them. This operation gives the billets the required shape and size. Water-cooled rollers crush the billets. Some billets go from a thickness of 5 inches down to ½ an inch, while others reduce from 6 inches down to 3/4 of an inch. At the end of production, Bars move along at a speed reaching 22 miles per hour. Once they reach their required dimensions, the bars must be cooled. This cooling bed allows the steel bars to cool uniformly. A total of 440,000 tons of steel bars are made at this plant each year.